Title: From the Inside Out. How to Create Reality Through Inspiration, Fear, and Abundance. Intro. A man who was looking for a way. Peter woke up early, as usual. There was a gray sky outside the window, as if it reflected his inner state. He was sitting at his desk, flipping through financial statements, trying to figure out where he had lost control. Once he was sure that perseverance, knowledge, even military discipline, all this should have led to stability. But now, at 45, he felt that he had lost not only his business and money, but also himself. He remembered when he was 16, leaving his native village where his parents ran a large farm. Back then, he dreamed of making a name for himself, of getting out of poverty. And he really got out? Military school, service in the Far East, work as an engineer, successful trading, his own business, everything went according to plan. He helped people sincerely, gratuitously. He believed that he was doing everything right. But life is not a plan. The war, the economic crisis, personal losses, difficult relationships, all this has become a powerful test. Peter lost almost everything he had built. Debts, doubts, and fear remained, but there is an unquenchable spark inside. He knew that the path wasn't over yet. He felt that the answer was somewhere nearby. He just had to find it. This book is his story, but not as a story about the past, and as a path from search and pain to understanding, acceptance, and action. Peter is not sharing a theory, but a real experience. He shows how fear can become a teacher, how inspiration can become a compass, and abundance is not a reward, but a natural state. You're holding a book in your hands that could change your life. Not because it contains any supernatural formulas, because she's talking about the laws that our universe lives by, laws that always work. Peter does not promise easy paths. He tells how he went through fear, how I learned to believe again, how I started small with one video, one book, one intention, and how it led to billions of views, millions of subscribers, abundance, and love. This book is not a verdict. This is hope. The hope that you can change your life today, not because you're lucky, it's because you can act according to the laws, not against them. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to get started. And when you take the first step, the universe will support you, because she always responds to those who really want to change. Part I, The Compass. Chapter 1, Inspiration. As a guide, Peter sat in the kitchen, sipping tea and staring out the window. Rain tapped against the sill, and his thoughts flowed slowly like autumn fog. He was thinking about the past, the village, his service, the business that once seemed unshakable. Now it all felt like a dream. Debts, doubts, and the question remained, what's next? He remembered the day he first felt something different. It was long ago, back in his youth, on the Far East. He stood on the deck of a ship, looking out at the endless ocean, and suddenly, unexpectedly, felt a surge of energy. Not from the wind, not from the salt, but from within, as if someone whispered, you can do more. You can do it differently. Back then, he thought it was fatigue. But later, in the quiet of the night, he caught that call again, while reading books, while talking to people he sincerely helped. He didn't know how to name that feeling, but he knew it was real. Over the years, it had almost disappeared, buried under routine, fears, concerns, but at that moment, sitting with his cup of tea, he suddenly heard it again, quiet but clear, like the chime of a bell in silence. He put down the spoon, stood up, and walked to his desk. He took a notebook and wrote, "Today, for the first time, I felt something awaken inside. Not confidence, not love, just the feeling that I'm not alone. That somewhere there is light, and it's not that far away. I'm writing this down because I want to remember. I want this feeling to remain. I intend to live with an open heart. I'm grateful for this morning, for the silence, for the chance to start again." That was his first step, not toward success, not toward money, just toward himself. Because inspiration is not a dream. It is a compass. It doesn't tell you where to go. It shows you who you are. Peter closed the notebook and looked out the window. The rain was still tapping, but now he heard a different rhythm in it. Not boredom, not anxiety, hope. He remembered how, at 16, leaving the village, he held a worn-out book in his hands. Back then, he didn't know exactly what would inspire him in life. He just knew he wanted more. More than routine. More than just surviving. He wanted significance. He wanted to feel that his life was not an accident. Military service in naval aviation, engineering work, trading, business. All of this was an attempt to achieve that significance. And he achieved it. But at some point, he realized achievements are not the goal. The feeling of significance is what matters. And here it was again, that feeling, not as a victory, but as an invitation to start over, with a clean slate, with an open heart. He got up, walked over to his computer. He stared at the blank screen for a long time. Then he opened a new document and wrote the title, A Path from Within. The words came slowly. He wasn't writing for someone else. He was writing for himself. He wrote about what he felt, about fear, loss, the search. And for the first time in a long time, he wasn't afraid of it. He didn't know if this would become a video, or an article, or a book. He just knew he had to do it, because a light had ignited inside him again, and he wanted to share it. This was not the first step toward success. This was the first step toward himself. The next morning, Pieter woke up early. Usually, he hated the early hours, but today they felt like an invitation. He didn't get up right away, but lay in bed, feeling that strange, almost forgotten sensation, lightness. He remembered his first day at the military academy. Back then, he had also woken up early, also felt anxiety and, at the same time, a challenge. He had thought then, I have to prove I'm worthy. Now he thought differently, I want to be myself. He got up, made tea, sat at the table. But instead of reports or plans, he opened that same document, A Path from Within, and he continued writing. Yesterday I realized I had lost touch with myself. I lived as if someone else was deciding what I needed. Work, money, status. It was all important. But where was me? Who was that person who looked at the ocean and felt he could do more? I want to find him. I want to feel the path again, not just plan it. It was easy to write. The words came by themselves. He wrote about fear, about his love of reading, about the people he had helped. He wrote about how important it is to give, not just to take. And at some point, he realized he wasn't just writing. He was praying, not to someone above, but to his truth. He was speaking to the person he wanted to become. He closed the document and looked out the window. The sun was breaking through the clouds, and at that moment, he accepted the next step. He opened the camera on his phone. Pieter held the phone in his hand. The screen was on, the camera pointed at him. He looked into the lens and felt a strange mix of anxiety and excitement. He didn't know what to say. He wasn't a blogger. He wasn't a celebrity. He was a man who had lost almost everything and was trying to find his way back. He remembered Santi's words from the book The Power of Intention, which he had recently reread. True knowledge is not in words. It is in the vibration you carry inside. He realized he didn't have to be perfect. He had to be real. He took a deep breath. "Hi," he said simply. "My name is Pieter, and I want to share my story with you." He spoke slowly, falteringly, but sincerely. He talked about his losses, his fears, his search. He spoke about how he felt inspired again. He didn't promise his viewers easy paths. He said, "If I could start over, so can you." The video lasted only 3 minutes. Pieter turned off the camera, looked at himself on the screen, and smiled. For the first time in a long time, he smiled from his heart, not because he had received something, but because he had given something, to himself, to the world. He realized this is the first step, not toward fame, not toward money, toward himself. Pieter didn't post the video right away. He saved it, watched it again, adjusted the light in the room a bit, tried a different pose. He wasn't aiming for quantity. He was aiming for quality of step. He remembered how, at 33, with shaking hands, he had opened his first business. Back then, he was also afraid, but he did it. Now he was taking a step again, smaller, but no less important. He wrote a caption for the video. "This is my first step." not toward success, but toward myself. If this inspires you, welcome to the journey. We're going together." And he clicked publish. This was not the end of the chapter. This was the beginning of the path. Chapter 2, First Responses and the Awakening of Fear. 3 days passed. Hyder didn't expect an explosion. He knew the video was only 3 minutes long and he had almost no subscribers. But on the 4th day, the first comment came. "Thank you. I've also lost everything. Your story gives hope." Pyotr's heart clenched, not from pain, from recognition. Someone heard him. Someone understood. Over the following days, a few more comments appeared. People wrote about their fears, losses, searches. They weren't asking for advice. They were just speaking. And Pyotr realized he wasn't alone. And they weren't alone either. He started replying to everyone. And in every response, he felt his heart opening wider. He wasn't just writing words. He was doing good. He was giving attention. And it felt natural. But with every new comment, every new response, fear began to grow inside Pyotr. Not the fear of losing, but the fear of receiving. He remembered how, at 33, opening his business, he had felt the same. What if I can't handle it? What if they judge me? What if it was all a mistake? Back then, he went through the fear and became a millionaire. Now the fear was different. It was subtler. It whispered, "What if you can't be real? What if they figure out you're pretending? What if you're not helping them but hurting them?" Pyotr sat down at the table. He opened his journal. He had always kept notes ever since reading The Power of Intention. And he wrote, "Today I realized when you start sharing, fear doesn't come from outside. It comes from within. It's not an enemy. It's calling for honesty, calling to be real. I'm grateful for fear. It reminds me everything that matters happens in the heart." He closed the journal and looked out the window. The sun was shining, and at that moment he accepted fear, not as an enemy, but as a teacher, because fear is not a wall, it's a bell. Chapter 3, Working with Fear. A dialogue with yourself. A week passed. The number of video views grew slowly but steadily, and the comments kept coming. People wrote not only about their fears, but also about hope. They thanked Pyotr. And in every thank you, he felt his heart warm. But fear was also growing. It wasn't loud. It was cunning. It whispered, "What if it's all temporary? What if it all ends tomorrow? What if you're just using these people to feel better about yourself?" Pyotr understood this fear. He had known it since childhood. In the village, at the academy, during service, fear was always there. Sometimes it helped him be cautious. Sometimes it paralyzed him. But now, at 45, Pyotr didn't want to fight fear anymore. He wanted to understand it. He opened his journal again, the same one where he had been writing everything, starting with The Power of Intention. He flipped through the pages, remembering how Santi had taught. True knowledge is not in words. It is in the vibration you carry inside. Pyotr closed his eyes, and he asked himself a question, not with his mind, but with his heart. Fear. What do you want to tell me? In the silence, the first thing he felt came: "You are not alone, and you don't have to be perfect." He wrote it down. Then he asked again, "What are you afraid of losing?" The answer came faster: "Control." "Safety? What you know?" Pyotr nodded. He understood. Fear didn't want to harm him. It was just afraid that Pyotr would be worse off, that he would lose again. But Pyotr didn't need not to lose. He needed to trust. He wrote in his journal, "Today I spoke with my fear. I didn't try to chase it away. I just asked, 'What do you want?' And it said, 'I want you to be okay.' I realized fear is not an enemy. It is a part of me. And if I accept it, it will stop being a prison. It will become a teacher. I'm grateful for fear. It reminds me, to be human is to be vulnerable." He exhaled loudly. Ha! And in that vulnerability, there is strength. He closed the journal, and at that moment, he chose to move forward, not despite fear, but with it. Because fear is not a wall, it's a bridge. Chapter 4, The Rhythm of the Heart, the Practice of Daily Intention. 2 weeks passed. Pyotr wasn't just posting videos anymore. He started feeling the rhythm of his days, his emotions, his intentions. He remembered the journal from the power of intention that Leo kept and realized he needed such a tool too, not just for notes, but as a mirror of his inner world. He bought 3 small notebooks, one for morning intentions, the second for daily observations, the third for gratitudes. Every morning, he sat at the table, opened the first notebook and wrote date, current date, intention of the day. Example, I intend to be authentic in every word, what I feel right now. Example, anxiety, but also interest. I want to share what I am grateful for. Example, for the chance to start. For those who wrote to me, he remembered Santi's words, true knowledge is not in words. It is in the vibration you carry inside. Peter realized that vibration wasn't an abstraction. It was how he felt every morning when he wrote these lines. Sometimes he wrote, afraid, alone, unsure. Sometimes inspired, ready, I believe. He didn't judge himself. He just observed. And here's what he began to notice. The more sincere his entries were, the deeper he delved into the feeling of gratitude and intention, the more responses appeared. People wrote, you're saying what I feel. Thank you for not pretending. You gave me strength. Peter realized he wasn't just sharing a story. He was sharing vibration, and that vibration was his true wealth. He remembered how, at 40, when opening his business, he also felt anxious, but he acted through it. Now he was acting again. Only now the action wasn't about opening a business, but about opening his heart. And at that moment, he realized the path is not the result. The path is every day when you choose to be yourself. And that choice is already a victory. Chapter 5, From Inspiration to Expression, the birth of a book and Peter's unique path. 3 weeks passed. Peter was no longer just recording videos. He felt the rhythm. He felt how his words, his intentions, his gratitudes, all of this began to resonate with someone. People weren't just writing thank you anymore. They were writing stories about how his videos helped them accept fear, start again, believe in themselves, but Peter understood that videos alone weren't enough. He wanted more. He wanted to scale his experience, deepen it, and share it in a more structured way. He remembered his unfinished books, and at that moment, he realized the time had come. However, the world had changed significantly since he last seriously wrote. Now there were neural networks. He knew they were powerful, but he didn't know how to use them. To keep up, he had to undergo training. He studied how to use AI for text editing, idea generation, and even for helping create video scripts. It was unusual, but he quickly realized that neural networks weren't a replacement for a human, but a tool that could amplify his own potential. He developed his own system. Instead of spending hours editing, like many do, he began using neural networks to generate texts, automatically create subtitles, select music, and even for initial idea structuring. He didn't go the road everyone else takes. He went his own path where nobody walks, and it worked. Content creation, synergy of actions. Peter didn't limit himself to just videos. He understood that his path was multitasking, where all actions reinforced each other. Videos. He used his system with neural networks for quick creation and uploading videos to his 3 YouTube channels. Books. Simultaneously, he wrote books. Ideas from videos he developed into texts. Neural networks helped him edit and structure the material. Trading. He continued trading on the Moscow exchange. This required concentration, but he learned to alternate intensive periods of creativity with calm ones of market analysis. Advertising. He ran online ad campaigns to promote his books and courses. He applied the same principles, finding non-standard approaches, testing, analyzing. He didn't do it all at once. He planned his day so that each action fueled another. Morning. Intentions and gratitudes. Also morning, start working on a video or a book. Day market analysis, trading, responding to comments. Evening, launching ads, planning for tomorrow. It wasn't chaos, but a rhythm that he himself created. The birth of the book. And so, one evening, while rereading yet another comment and simultaneously analyzing the effectiveness of his new system, Pieter felt something more than inspiration. He felt a calling. He opened his old laptop. There, in the Ideas folder, lay files. Files with titles like Laws of the Universe, The Power of Intention, The Path to Yourself. He had started writing them many years ago when he had just returned from the Far East, when he was searching for answers, but he had never finished them. Today was different. He opened a new document, simply titled it. From within outward, the words came by themselves. He wasn't trying to be a writer. He was just writing, about how he had lost everything, about how he had felt the light inside again, about how fear can be a teacher, about how important it is to be real. He used a neural network to check structure and logic, but the voice was entirely his own. He remembered Arena's words from The Power of Intention. I'm not searching anymore. I've found. I'm not waiting. I already have. Pieter realized he wasn't searching either. He knew, and he wanted to share this knowledge. He wrote late into the night. The first chapter, about himself, about how he had woken up on that gray day, about how he had heard the call again, about how fear had come not as an enemy, but as a call to grow. He didn't know if this would become a bestseller. He didn't know if it would bring money. He knew only one thing. He had to write it, because a light had ignited inside him again, and he wanted this light to become a book, so others could see it too. This was not just a text dot, this was an intention dot, an intention to share the truth dot, an intention to help others. An intention to change the world, starting with one heart. Chapter 6, First Fruits and the Test of Faith. Half a month passed. Pieter was no longer just thinking about the book. He was writing it. Every day, in the morning, after his morning intentions, he sat down at his laptop. Sometimes he used a neural network to help structure thoughts or check logic. But the voice of the book was his. Honest, with cracks, but alive. He remembered how Arena kept her journal in The Power of Intention. She wrote, I intend to be loved, but not from the outside, from within. Pieter realized his intention was not just to write a book. His intention was to share the truth. Truth about fear, about searching, about how to find the light again. His 3 YouTube channels began to grow. Not explosively, like stars, but steadily. People who watched his videos left comments. Not just cool or like, real comments, about how his words helped them accept their situation, about how, for the first time in a long time, they believed in themselves. This was real reinforcement. Pieter understood that his path was not all or nothing. It was every day. Every post, every video, every chapter was a step, and every step had weight. But one evening, everything went wrong. He received an email from a publisher. Your manuscript is interesting, but it lacks structure. Perhaps it's worth developing the concept more deeply. We cannot accept it in its current form. Pieter's heart clenched. He read the email 3 times. Then he closed the laptop and went to the kitchen, made tea, sat down, and listened to himself. He felt hurt and fear. Maybe they're right. Maybe I won't succeed. But then he remembered Leo from The Power of Intention. Leo doubted too. He wrote, I still doubt, but yesterday, for a moment, I felt that I could. Pieter opened his journal, wrote, Today I received a rejection, not from people, from fear. I was afraid that I wouldn't succeed. But then I remembered, the path is not the result. The path is every day when I choose to be myself. I'm grateful for this rejection. It reminded me, don't seek approval, seek truth. He closed the journal, looked out the window. The sun was shining, and at that moment, he chose to move forward. Not because he was told yes, but because he knew it was important. But the trials didn't end there. The following week, the market turned sharply. Pieter, as before, was managing his futures positions. But a sudden collapse, accompanied by a gap of price jump down between trading sessions, was a disaster for him. His stop losses didn't trigger, the system didn't have time to react to the lightning-fast drop. He lost half of his deposit. Pieter sat in front of the screen, looking at the red numbers. Inside, emptiness. It wasn't just a financial blow. It was a feeling of failure. He was at the bottom again, or almost. But even in this state, he didn't shut down. He observed himself. He felt anger, fear, disappointment. But somewhere deep inside, the light remained. The same light he had ignited on that gray day when he started writing. He remembered, the path is not about approval. It's about being true to yourself. And then he accepted the loss, not as a sentence, but as a lesson. He realized the market is like life. It can be cruel, but it teaches. He closed the terminal, opened his document with the book, and continued writing about fear, about losses, about how important it is not to give up. And a couple of days later, he needed to upload a new video, but there was almost no money left on the balance, not even enough for the voiceover service. He couldn't afford an expensive neural network for the voice. And then an idea came. He remembered he had an old microphone. He found a speech synthesis program that worked offline and was free. The quality wasn't perfect, but it was there. He started voicing the videos himself. At first, it was unusual listening to his own voice working with intonations, but he realized it was even better. His personal voice now sounded in every video. It made him real, closer to people. He wrote in the video description, "Sorry for the voiceover quality. I don't have enough funds for professional tools yet, but I want to share sincerely with you. I hope you'll forgive me." And guess what happened next? People started writing. Your voice inspires more than any expensive voiceover. Thank you for staying real. You show that you can start from zero. Hyder realized limitations are not walls. They are ladders. They force you to think differently, act differently, and find true strength, because the path is not about approval. It's about being true to yourself. Chapter 7, First Glimmers of Light, the Reward for Perseverance. 2 months passed. Hyder no longer counted the days. He felt the rhythm of morning intentions, the rhythm of creating content during the day, the rhythm of analysis and trading in the evening, and the rhythm of gratitude before sleep. This wasn't just a routine. It was a prayer through actions. His book From Within Outward was growing, chapter by chapter. He wasn't in a hurry. He knew that the quality of every word mattered more than the quantity of pages. He remembered Arina from the 10 laws of the universe. Until you accept the lesson, the situation will repeat itself. He realized his lesson was to trust the process despite fear and uncertainty. The YouTube channels were also growing, not explosively, but steadily. People didn't just watch, they returned. Comments became longer, deeper. Hyder felt how his vibration began to resonate with others. He remembered the law of resonance, like attracts like. He radiated sincerity and received sincerity in return. But the real breakthrough happened unexpectedly. One morning, he received an email from a stranger. "Hello, Hyder. My name is Anna. I stumbled upon your video by accident and couldn't stop watching. You said what I had felt for years but was afraid to admit. Thank you. You gave me the strength to start over. I started keeping a journal as you suggested. It changed my life." Hyder read the letter, his heart filled with warmth. This wasn't just a comment. It was confirmation. Confirmation that his path had meaning. That his intention was not just words, but a force that could change someone else's life. He opened his journal, wrote, "Today I realized when you give from the heart, the universe responds. Not immediately, not loudly, but certainly. I'm grateful to Anna. She reminded me, the path is not about glory. The path is about connection, about resonance, about love." That same day, his brokerage account showed its first profit in a long time. Not big, but stable. He remembered the lesson from the power of intention. True knowledge is not in words. It is in the vibration you carry inside. He realized his calmness, his acceptance of losses, his daily work on himself. All of this had become a vibration of trust, and the market, like people, responded to it. And at that moment, he realized the reward is not in the result. The reward is in the process, in the feeling of living by your own compass, in being true to yourself. And that feeling is already abundance. Chapter 8, From personal experience to an online course, scaling the truth 2.5 months passed. Peter felt how his world had begun to change. Not sharply, not radically, but deeply. His book From Within Outward already had 7 chapters. His YouTube channels were growing, not by millions, but by real people. People who wrote him personal messages, shared their stories, expressed gratitude. And yet, somewhere deep down, he felt that this was not enough. That his experience, his path through fear, through loss, through searching, could help more people. Not just with words and videos or lines in a book, but structured, practically, step by step. He remembered how Santi said in The Power of Intention, true knowledge is not in words. It is in the vibration you carry inside. Peter realized he didn't just want to tell about his path. He wanted to convey the vibration, and to do it in a way that everyone could walk this path, step by step. The idea came unexpectedly. He was reading another comment. How do you combine all this? Trading, videos, books. It's inspiring. And at that moment, he realized this was his course. Not just how to be successful, but how to be yourself in everything, the path of the creator, trader, and teacher. He opened a new document. Simply titled it, The Path of Integrity. He began to structure it. What did he want to give people? Mindfulness in action. How to keep a journal of intentions, how to listen to the inner voice, how to accept fear, not abstractly, but in practice as he had done himself. Creating content on a budget. His personal experience. How to use free and accessible tools including neural networks, how to voice videos yourself, how to write books without resources. Balancing life and business. How to combine creativity, trading, family, chores, not in theory, but from personal example. How he built his rhythm. Working with finances and fear. How he lost 50% of his deposit and didn't break down. How fear became a teacher. How he came back and continued. The vibration of trust. How he learned to trust the process despite failures. How his inner work reflected in external results. He wasn't going to make a universal course. He was making a personal one, honest, alive. He knew that authenticity was his strength. He knew that people don't buy a perfect teacher. They buy a person who walked the path and can lead them. He remembered Maxim's words from the 10 laws of the universe. You don't attract what you think about, you attract what you resonate with. Peter realized he wasn't selling knowledge. He was selling vibration. The vibration of integrity. The vibration of trust. The vibration of possibility. He wrote in his journal, "Today I realized my mission is not just to share. My mission is to show that you can start from zero, that you can lose everything and still move forward, that you can be real and find resonance. I'm creating a course not for glory. I'm creating it for connection, for those who walk behind, who seek the light, who are ready to believe." He closed the journal. And at that moment, he accepted the next step, not just to share, to teach, not just to inspire, to give tools, because the path is not only about yourself, it's about those walking beside you. Chapter 9, Obstacle as the Seed of a New Idea. 3 months passed. Peter was fully immersed in creating the course The Path of Integrity. He laid out the structure, wrote lessons, filmed videos, and even created PDF guides with checklists and journaling practices. Each element was infused with his personal experience, from losing his deposit to finding a balance between creativity and business. He felt how the course lived inside him. He wasn't just collecting information. He was transmitting vibration. He told not only how, but also why. He shared not only knowledge, but also pain, fears, and victories. But when the course was almost ready, reality struck. Peter began researching platforms for hosting online courses, and he was shocked. Monthly subscriptions to some services cost hundreds of dollars. Sales commissions up to 20%. It was unaffordable. Given his current financial situation, he simply couldn't afford it. He sat down at the table, opened his journal, wrote, "Today I faced a new challenge. I created a course that can help people, but I can't host it because all the platforms are too expensive. I feel irritation and hurt. Why is it so hard to share value? But then I remembered, every obstacle is a seed of a new idea, a new opportunity. I'm grateful for this trial. It showed me where I need to create something new. He closed the journal, looked out the window. It was raining outside, and at that moment, he realized the problem he faced was not a wall. It was an invitation to create what he would need. He remembered Santi's words from The Power of Intention. True knowledge is not in words. It is in the vibration you carry inside. Peter realized his vibration was the vibration of accessibility. He had always sought ways to make value accessible, and now he wanted to scale that accessibility. He opened a new document, titled it Idea, a Platform for Creators, and began writing. The problem: content creators, like himself, often can't afford expensive platforms. The solution: create a simple, affordable platform where people can host their courses, guides, checklists for a symbolic fee. The goal: make knowledge and help accessible to everyone. Not for profit, but for connection. Opportunities: easy material upload. Simple payment system. Minimal fees. A community of creators. He knew it was technically difficult. He wasn't a programmer. He didn't know how to build a website. But he remembered Leo's words from The Power of Intention. I still doubt. But yesterday, for a moment, I felt that I could. Peter understood. Everything that exists in thoughts is achievable. Not immediately, not easily, but achievable. The main thing is intention and action. He wrote in his journal, "Today I planted a seed. The seed of an idea. I don't know exactly how I will create this platform. I don't know how long it will take. But I know I have to do it. Because inside me is the certainty. Everything that matters is possible. I intend to create a place where everyone who wants to share value will be able to do so. Without fear. Without limitations. I'm grateful for this vision. It gives me the strength to move forward." He closed the journal. And at that moment, he accepted a new intention, not just to host a course, but to create a tool that will help others share theirs. Because the path is not only about yourself, it's about those who will come after. Chapter 10, Awareness of the Path. Peter closed his laptop, looked out the window. It was already evening. So much had changed over these months. He remembered how he started, just sitting with a cup of tea, feeling emptiness. And now, he had a book, a growing audience, a course about to be released, and even an idea for a new project that could change the lives of many people. He opened his journal, wrote, "Today I complete the first stage. I didn't just walk the path from pain to action. I became aware of the path. I realized that the compass is not a direction north. It is the feeling of truth inside. And as long as I listen to this feeling, I won't get lost. I'm grateful to fear, which was my teacher. I'm grateful to limitations, which became my ladders. I'm grateful to the people who reminded me of the value of connection. Now I know. The next step is not just to share. The next step is to create a space where others can also share, where they won't be afraid to be themselves, where accessibility and truth are the main values. I don't know exactly how I will create this platform. I don't know when. But I know why, and that's enough, because when the intention is pure, the universe always supports. The first part of the journey is over, but the path is not a line, it's a circle, and every circle is a new beginning, a new intention, a new step into the unknown, full of possibilities. I am ready. He closed the journal, looked at the sunset, and at that moment, he felt he was no longer searching, he was going. Part E. The Shadow. Chapter 1. Fear as a Teacher, the beginning of inner work. It's been for months. Peter felt his life becoming saturated. The book grew. The Path of Integrity course was almost ready to launch. His YouTube channels were gaining momentum. Even the idea of a new platform began to take shape. He began to study how neural networks work, which can help in its creation. But one night he woke up. Not from a nightmare. Not from anxiety. I just woke up. And in the silence of the room, I felt emptiness. Not the one that was there before, when he was lost, and the other one, deep, as if someone had whispered, "You're still running." But where to? He got up, poured water, and sat by the window. It was too late. The street was asleep, and in that silence he met his shadow for the first time. Not fear in general, and the specific fears that he had been suppressing all this time. He remembered Alina's words from 10 Laws of the Universe. Until you accept the lesson, the situation will repeat itself. He realized that his lesson was not just to act. His lesson is to know yourself, completely, including the shadow. He opened the diary. Compose. Today I met with something that I was afraid to admit. I'm not just a person who has lost and found a way. I'm still a human being, with all the fears, with all the doubts. I'm afraid of failure. I'm afraid of success. I'm afraid people will realize that I'm just a person. I'm afraid it's all an illusion, that everything will disappear tomorrow, that I'll be a nobody again. But for the first time, I didn't fight it. I just looked at those fears, and suddenly I realized they are not enemies. They are mirrors. They show me what I don't see in myself, what I'm afraid to accept. I'm grateful for these fears. They reminded me that being yourself means being whole, including the shadow, including the pain, including doubts. It's time for internal work, not for success, but for the truth. I intend to face every fear, not to win, but to understand, to accept, to become real. He closed the diary. The city was asleep, and at that moment he took the next step of the path, not forward, but inside, into the shadows. To fear, as a teacher, because the path is not only about the light, it's about awareness of darkness. Peter closed the diary. I looked out the window. The city was asleep, and at that moment he took the next step of the path, not forward, but inside, into the shadows. To fear, as a teacher, but acceptance was only the first step. The next morning, when he woke up, he felt a familiar tug in his chest. Why would you do that? An inner voice whispered, why can't you just be like everyone else? Work, home, work, stability. Without these searches, without these videos, without this book, without these courses. Simply live. Peter sat up in bed. He knew that voice. It was the voice of the old security. The voice of the system in which he once survived, but which drained his resource until he was at the bottom. He recalled the words from the 10 Laws of the Universe. You don't attract what you think about, you attract what you resonate with. And I realized that resonating with the system means losing yourself. He didn't want to be a cog. He wanted to be alive. But with that came another feeling, doubt. It was quiet but insistent. But will it work? Fear whispered, after all, not everything happens. The world is not a fairy tale. The world is a tough competition. You've already lost your business. You're almost bankrupt, and now you want more. Do you want to be a star? Who the hell are you? Peter felt anxiety building up inside him. He remembered Santi's words from The Power of Intent. I still doubt it. But yesterday, for a moment, I felt that I could. He realized that doubts are not enemies. These are the bells. They say, you're on the doorstep. You're out of your comfort zone. That's fine. He opened the diary. Compose, doubts came to me this morning. The voice of the system whispers, be like everyone else. Keep your head down. Don't take any chances, and the voice of fear asks, will it work? You've already lost everything. Why again? But inside there is a different feeling, a sense of freedom. Not because I'm free from work, but because I know that a person should not be a slave to the system. The system is not the master. She is a tool. And if she starts to pump out, it's time to change the tool. I realized that everyone has their own talent, his calling. I also have, and I have to reveal it. Not because I want to be better. It's because you have to be yourself. Completely. Fears and doubts prevail, but they don't stop. They're checking. They ask, are you sure? Are you ready? Are you real? I do not know if everything I have planned will come true. The world is not just about desires. The world is about intention. And if my intention is pure, the universe will support me, even if the path is not smooth. I'm grateful for fear. He reminds me being yourself is a challenge. But this is life. And at that moment, he accepted the doubt, not as a verdict, but as part of the way. But acceptance was only the beginning. The real work began now. He recalled Maxim's words from 10 Laws of the Universe. You don't attract what you think about, you attract what you resonate with. Peter realized that in order to change his reality, he had to work through what he had resonated with before: fear, security and stagnation, expectation of external salvation. He opened a new document, named him The Shadow. My fears, and he began to write. Not pretty phrases, not philosophy, but honestly. My fears, fear of failure. I'm going to lose everything again. I can't handle it. It was luck, not skill. Fear of success. What if I really achieve everything? What if it gets even harder for me? What if I can't handle the responsibility? The fear of being just a human being. What if people realize that I'm not a guru? That I also have doubts, fears, weaknesses? The fear of illusory. What if it's all self-deception? What if tomorrow everything disappears and I'll be nobody again? He was looking at this list. My heart was beating faster, but he didn't look away. He was watching. How Sandy taught, there are no wrong words. There are words that help you hear yourself. He took the first fear, the fear of failure. He remembered how he lost the business. What did I think then? This is the end. But then I got up, drove north, and took the first step. As at the age of 40, with shaking hands, he opened a new business. And he succeeded. He texted, "The fear of failure is the memory of pain." But this is not a prediction of the future. This is a warning. It says, be careful, learn, don't make the same mistakes, but it doesn't say, give up. I've already been through this. I survived. I became stronger. I'm grateful for the fear of failure. He reminds me that being human means taking risks, and that's okay. Then he took the second fear, the fear of success. He remembered Arena's words from The Power of Intent. I intend to be loved, but not from the outside, from the inside. Peter realized that the fear of success is the fear of responsibility, the fear of being worthy of what he wants. He texted, the fear of success is the fear of being real, the fear that the world will see not the mask, but me. It's good. That means I'm going to my room. I don't want to be perfect. I want to be alive. I'm grateful for the fear of success. He reminds me, being yourself is a challenge, and I'm ready for it. He continued to work with the list. Every fear, every doubt, he met them. I didn't fight. He didn't suppress it. I've met him. As Sandy told Leo, you don't have to overcome fear. You should go with him. It wasn't a battle. It was a dialogue. Dialogue with oneself, the part that he had ignored for a long time. And at that moment, he realized fear is not a shadow that needs to be destroyed. Fear is the teacher who has been walking by my side all this time. He just couldn't hear it. Part E. The Shadow Chapter 2, Dialogue with Fear, Deepening Inner Work. 4.5 months passed. Hyder continued his inner work. Every morning, after his intention exercises, he opened the document The Shadow, My Fears, and met each item. Not to defeat them, but to understand their nature. He remembered the dialogue between Santi and Leo from The Power of Intention. You don't have to defeat fear. You have to walk with it. These words became his mantra. He wasn't looking for an ideal state without fear. He was looking for conscious coexistence with his fears. He understood that fear was not a broken piece of his psyche. It was information. Information about what he was afraid of losing, what he cared about, what he was not ready to let go of. He took fear number 3 from his list, fear of being just a person. He remembered how, at 16, he left the village. Back then, he was afraid of being nobody. Now he was afraid of being someone and still being human with his weaknesses, doubts, and mistakes. He wrote, fear of being just a person is fear of not meeting expectations. Fear that if people see I'm not perfect, they will stop respecting me. But this is a lie. True respect is not for the ideal. True respect is for the person who tries, who falls and gets up, who feels. I'm grateful for this fear. It reminded me, don't seek approval. Seek truth. And the truth is what I am. Not a mask, not a role, but a human, with cracks, with pain, with love. I intend to be myself, completely, even if it frightens me. He closed the document, looked out the window. The day was cloudy, and at that moment, he felt he wasn't just writing about fears. He was communicating with them. He was listening to them. And the more he listened, the less they seemed like enemies. They became messages. Messages from himself. From the part that wants to be safe. That wants to be accepted. That wants to be loved. He remembered Arena's words from The Power of Intention. I intend to be loved, but not from the outside, from within. Hyder realized the fear of being just a person is the fear of not loving oneself. The fear that inside, he is not worthy of love. That inside, he is nobody. But Hyder knew now, being nobody is an illusion. Every person is a universe, with thousands of facets, with thousands of fears, with thousands of possibilities. And working with the shadow is not about eliminating fear. It's about acknowledgement, about acceptance, about love for oneself, all of oneself. He opened his journal, wrote, "Today I realized fear is not an enemy. It is part of me, a part that wants to be safe, a part that wants to be loved, a part that is afraid of being rejected. I don't want to fight fear anymore. I want to embrace it, to say, I see you, I hear you, you are important, you are needed, but you are not all of me. I am more than my fears. I am more than my doubts. I am more than my mistakes. I am the whole, and in this whole, there is a place for fear, and that is okay. I'm grateful for fear. It reminded me, to be human is to be whole, including the shadow, including the pain, including the doubts, and that is beauty. Working with the shadow is not about fixing yourself. It's about becoming yourself, because the path is not only about light. It's about becoming aware of the darkness. And loving everything that lives within it. Hyder felt how the flow was strengthening. The flow chapter not one, like water that as a result, the beginning like of breathing, manifestation. Constant, alive, filling. He wasn't just thinking about intention. He was living it. Every morning, every action, every meeting, all of this became part of one whole. His book From Within Outward had been accepted by the publisher. His Path of Integrity course was about to be released. The idea of a platform for creators was beginning to take shape. He was studying neural networks, thinking about the structure, even starting to write a technical specification. But the biggest change was not the external side of life. The biggest change was the feeling of flow. He remembered Santi's words from The Power of Intention. Intention is not a practice, it is being. Hyder realized he wasn't just taking steps. He entered the flow. A flow where action and being merged into one. And at that moment, the universe responded. Motivation and support. He was sitting at the computer, putting together a presentation for the course. Natasha came into the room with 2 cups of tea. She put one in front of him and one next to him. You've been at the screen for 3 hours, she said gently. Take a break. Remember why you're doing this. Hyder leaned back in his chair, looked at her. There was no condemnation in her eyes, no fear. There was recognition. There was understanding. There was inspiration. Sometimes it feels like I'm just walking, he said, and it doesn't matter where. The main thing is to walk. Natasha smiled. It wasn't just a smile. It was confirmation. Confirmation that he was not alone, that there was a person who saw him, who supported him, who believed in him. You know what I admire about you, she said. You're not looking for an ideal result. You enjoy the process. You trust yourself. That's rare. Hyder looked at her. There was no flattery in her words. There was truth. There was vision. I have doubts sometimes too, he said. But then I remember, I don't have to achieve success. I have to be myself. Whole, real. Natasha nodded. She wasn't just listening. She understood. You know what's the hardest part for me? She said. Not to support you, but not to interfere, because I see how you're growing, and I know, if I start helping, I might interfere with your walking. Hyder looked at her, his heart filled with warmth. This wasn't just support, it was trust. Trust in his path, in his growth, in his will. He remembered Arena's words from The Power of Intention. I intend to be loved, but not from the outside, from within. Hyder realized he didn't just find love. He became love. He accepted it. And it came The first fruits of the flow that same day, he received an email from the publisher. We have reviewed your manuscript. It has become different, deeper, more sincere. We want to publish it. Pyotr's heart clenched, but not from fear, from warmth, from recognition, from realization that his path has weight. He opened his journal, wrote, "Today I realized, abundance is not only about money. It is connection. It is love. It is support. It is recognition. It is trust. I'm grateful to Natasha. She reminded me, being loved is not about finding. It is about being, about opening up, about trusting. I'm grateful to the publisher. He reminded me, when you are real, the world opens up. I'm not going towards abundance. I'm abundance. I'm just starting to see it. The flow has begun, not because I did everything right, but because I became myself, whole, real, loving, and loved." He closed the journal, looked out the window. The day was cloudy, but inside him, a calm flame was burning. The flame of trust, the flame of love, the flame of truth. And at that moment, he realized the reward is not in the result. The reward is in the process, in the feeling of living by your own compass, in being true to yourself, in being loved, and that feeling is already abundance. Chapter 2, Powerful Breakthrough. From shadow to light 6 months had passed. Pyotr felt how the flow had become stronger. It was no longer a thin stream of awakening. This was now a current carrying him forward with such force that he no longer wanted to look back. He wasn't just thinking about intention, he was living it. Every morning, every action, every meeting became part of one whole. 6 books, a million opportunities in these 6 months. He didn't just write one book. He launched a series, 6 books on self-development. Each one was a reflection of a stage of his journey from within outward, the power of intention in action, the path of integrity, conscious attraction, inner balance, trust as a foundation. They were released one after another, like waves washing over his reading audience. People wrote, "You say what I felt, but was afraid to admit." The advertising campaigns were going strong. He had learned to work with systems, with neural networks, with the audience. Revenues were growing, not explosively, but rhythmically, like breathing, like a flow. He wasn't earning. He was manifesting value, and the universe returned it. A resort as a gift from the universe one day. In the midst of this flow, Natasha put a voucher for a seaside resort on the table. "This is from your subscribers," she said. "One of them bought it and sent it to you. With a note, 'Thank you for helping me find myself. Now it's your turn to find rest.'" Pyotr held the voucher in his hands, his heart filled with warmth. This wasn't just a gift, it was recognition. Recognition that his path had touched others, that his intention had become a force in someone else's life. They went. The sea, the sun, silence. On the first evening, Pyotr stood on the shore, watching the sunset, and remembered. The shadow of the past, he remembered how he had lost his business. How everyone in his family had turned away then. How, when he ran the business and helped everyone, the calls never stopped. And when he hit rock bottom and came for help, no one answered. Except for 2 friends from service. Only they stayed. Only they believed. "Are you thinking about that?" Natasha asked, coming up behind him and hugging him. "Yes," he said, "but now I understand. That was a lesson. A lesson that real people are not those who are related by blood. They are those who stay in any situation, who see you, who support you." New challenges from the old shadow. A week after returning from the resort, his name was flooding Yandex search results. There was a sea of information there. Books, reviews, interviews, articles. He had become visible. And at that moment, they returned. Calls, messages. "Hi, Pyotr, how's life? We read your book." Some of those who had turned away decided to suddenly reconnect. They hadn't changed. They just saw that he had become someone. Pyotr sat at the table, reading another message. Natasha looked at him. "What will you do?" she asked. Pyotr looked at her. There was no anger in his eyes, no resentment. There was calmness. There was understanding. "Nothing," he said. "I've already passed that lesson. I was taught by experience, and now I know. It doesn't matter who you are, relative or not. You have to be a person, be able to give, not just take. He closed his phone, looked out the window. The day was sunny, and at that moment, he realized he wasn't just becoming successful. He became himself. Whole, real, free. He opened his journal, wrote, "Today I realized abundance is not only about money. It is freedom. Freedom to be yourself. Freedom to choose. Freedom to forgive. Freedom to refuse what doesn't serve you. I'm grateful to those who stayed. They reminded me being human means being true to your principles. Even when it's difficult. I am grateful to those who left. They reminded me, don't seek approval. Seek truth. I'm grateful to those who returned. They reminded me, I'm not the same anymore. I grew. I became stronger. And I don't need their approval. I'm not going towards abundance. I'm abundance. I just choose it every day. The flow has strengthened, not because I did everything right, but because I became myself. Whole, real, loving, and loved, free." He closed the journal. And at that moment, he realized the reward is not in the result. The reward is in the process, in the feeling of living by your own compass, in being true to yourself, in being loved. And that feeling is already abundance. Chapter 3. The Platform of Dreams. Manifesting the idea. 7 months had passed. Peter felt how the flow was becoming reality, not as an idea, not as a feeling, but as life that he lived. Every morning, every action, every meeting became part of one whole. He wasn't just thinking about intention, he was living it. His 6 books were already selling. His Path of Integrity course had become a bestseller on several platforms. His YouTube channels were gaining momentum. The idea of a platform for creators was beginning to come alive. From idea to action, he was sitting at the computer studying code. Technical specifications were lying nearby. He wasn't a programmer, but he was determined. He remembered words similar to those he had read in a book. True knowledge is not in words. It is in the vibration you carry inside. In this case, the vibration was his unwavering desire to make knowledge accessible. He didn't know how to create the platform, but he knew why. He knew that millions of creators, like himself, couldn't afford expensive services. He knew he had to create a space where value was accessible to everyone. He opened his journal, wrote, "Today I started, not with a big plan, not with perfect code, but with the first step. I downloaded the program. I read the first article. I asked the first question in the developer's chat. I don't know how long this will take. I don't know what difficulties await. But I know I started, and that is already a victory. I'm grateful to myself. For courage, for faith, for movement. I'm grateful to Natasha. She didn't laugh when I said, I want to create a platform, she said, then start. I believe in you. I'm grateful to the universe. It sent me people, those who can help, those who want to help, those who believe in the idea. I'm not creating a platform. I'm creating an opportunity. The opportunity to be yourself. The opportunity to share value. The opportunity to grow. The flow carries me, and I trust it. A new level of support. Natasha came into the room with 2 cups of tea and put one in front of Peter. She looked at the screen, full of incomprehensible symbols and diagrams. You know what surprises me? She said, sitting down beside him. A few months, you didn't even know what a neural network was. And now look, you're learning to program. Peter looked up from the screen and smiled. It's like sports, he said. At first, everything seems impossible. Then you take the first step, then the second, and at some point, you realize you're already running. And if it doesn't work out, she asked, not with anxiety, but with interest, if the platform doesn't take off. Peter thought, a month ago, this question could have scared him, but now it sounded like an ordinary, almost technical one. Then I'll learn something new, he said, and I'll make the next one. Natasha nodded. She wasn't just listening. She participated. She saw how he was growing, and that was more important to her than any success. I like how you've become, she said quietly. Not someone, but became yourself. Whole, real. Hyder looked at her. There was no flattery in her words. There was truth. There was vision. I feel it too, he said. Sometimes it seems to me that I'm not becoming who I should be. I remember who I always was, and I just stopped pretending to be someone else. He closed the journal. The room was quiet. Only the ticking of the clock and the soft hum of the computer filled the space. But inside him, a calm flame was burning. The flame of trust. The flame of love. The flame of truth. And at that moment, he realized the reward is not in the result. The reward is in the process, in the feeling of living by your own compass, in being true to yourself, in being loved. And that feeling is already abundance. Chapter 4, The Power of the Flow. Abundance comes in waves. 8 months had passed. Hyder felt how the flow became a powerful river. It didn't just carry him forward, it swept up everything around it, connecting events, people, and opportunities into one whole. He wasn't striving for abundance. He entered it. Each day brought new gifts. His 6 books had already become bestsellers. His Path of Integrity course was selling thousands of copies. His YouTube channels had surpassed 500,000 subscribers. The idea of a platform for creators manifested. An investment of destiny. That call from Alexei Volkov, the investor, turned out not to be a coincidence. Hyder remembered a lesson from a book about the laws of the universe. Until you accept the lesson, the situation will repeat itself. He didn't just want to create a platform. He was ready for it, and the universe sent a person who could do it together with him. Alexei didn't just give money. He led the process. He knew how to build teams, how to launch projects. He brought programmers, designers, marketers. The platform, which had been just an idea, began to come alive. Hyder was sitting in the new office, small but cozy, gifted by Alexei for the team. He looked at the screen where the test site of the platform was loading. Do you feel it? Alexei asked, coming up behind him. This isn't just a website. It's a space for those who seek. Hyder nodded. He felt it. He wasn't just creating a platform. He was creating an opportunity to be yourself, an opportunity to share value, an opportunity to grow. A partnership that changed everything. The partnership with Dom MT House of Dreams provided the first financial flow. The store, which had stood empty for months, was filled with products. And again, at the right moment, Hyder was sitting at the table, analyzing the first sales. Natasha brought tea. You look different, she said. Not just successful, but whole, as if you found yourself. Hyder looked at her. There was no flattery in her words. There was truth. There was vision. I feel like I became myself, he said. Not became someone, but became myself. Whole, real, loving, and loved. Natasha smiled. It wasn't just a smile. It was confirmation. Confirmation that he was not alone. That there was a person who saw him, who supported him, who believed in him. The flow intensifies. Meanwhile, the YouTube channel soared. 500,000 subscribers. Not 1. 3 channels. Hyder learned to monetize them through special campaigns, companies that arranged monetization for a percentage and transferred the earnings to him. He wasn't just earning. He was creating a system. He remembered a lesson from a book about the laws of the universe. You don't attract what you want, but what you resonate with. He resonated with the flow, with trust, with action, and the universe responded. He began investing part of the funds and bonds for stability, part in cryptocurrency for growth. He wasn't guessing. He trusted himself, trusted the process, trusted the flow. He opened his journal, wrote, "Today I realized abundance is not only about money. It is rhythm. It is flow. It is trust. It is action. Investor, partner, channels, store, platform, everything came, not all at once, not chaotically, but in waves. Waves that I myself created with my intention, with my work, with my faith. I'm not going towards abundance. I'm abundance. I just vibrate with it, and the universe supports. The flow carries me, and I float on it, without resistance, without fear, with joy. I am grateful for everything, for people, for opportunities, For trust, he closed the journal. The room was quiet. Only the ticking of the clock and the soft hum of the computer filled the space. But inside him, a calm flame was burning. The flame of trust, the flame of love, the flame of truth. And at that moment, he realized the reward is not in the result. The reward is in the process, in the feeling of living by your own compass, in being true to yourself, in being loved. And that feeling is already abundance. Chapter 5. Manifestation. The road to the dream house. Pieter was driving his new SUV along the winding road leading to the house of his dreams. The wind streamed freely through the open window, tousling his hair and Natasha's, who was sitting beside him. The sun, already beginning to set, played with glints on the windshield. Natasha looked out at the panorama unfolding before them, where a hill dotted with pines held their new home. Her face shone with quiet joy. Do you remember how you used to sit in the kitchen and stare out the window when it all started? She asked, her gaze still on the road. Pieter smiled, remembering that gray day filled only with emptiness. It felt like yesterday, although so much time had passed. I remember, he said. Back then, it felt like everything was lost. And now, he paused, inhaling the scent of pine lingering in the air. Now I know for certain everything is possible, even the things you can't quite believe until they happen. Natasha turned to him, her eyes bright with love and pride. I always knew you'd make it, she said, even when you doubted yourself, because I saw how you worked. Not just dreamed, but took steps. Pieter reached out and gently squeezed her hand. I wouldn't have made it without you, he said. Your faith. It was an anchor when I didn't believe in myself. He remembered that first evening when a spark had awakened within him. The fears he had learned to live with, not fight against. The slow, inexorable forward movement. The moment he accepted the flow instead of resisting it. The trust that had come not instantly, but became solid ground beneath his feet. You know what's the most amazing thing? He said, I didn't become someone special, I just became myself. Whole, real, and the world responded. Natasha nodded. You weren't looking for abundance. You entered it. You weren't looking for love. You became love. And everything that came was a reflection of who you had become. Pieter remembered words that had once inspired him. Intention is not a practice, it is being. Now he truly understood them. He hadn't just set intentions. He was them, and when he became the intention to be himself, the universe couldn't help but respond. He recalled how it started, one video, one book, one course. How fear came again and again, but he learned to greet it as a teacher. How the flow had strengthened day by day, bringing new opportunities, the investor, partners, growing audiences, steady income. How the platform for creators, the one he had dreamed of, had finally come to life. And now the house, the car, happiness. Not as a reward for suffering, but as the natural state of one who lives in the flow. We're home, Natasha said as the car turned onto the driveway. Pieter turned off the engine. The outside world settled into silence, broken only by bird song and the whisper of leaves. He looked at Natasha. We did it, he said. No, she smiled. You did it. We just walked beside you. Pieter shook his head. No, we did it. Together. And everyone who was there at the right moment was part of this path too. He got out of the car, walked around, and helped Natasha out. They stood before the house, holding hands, surveying the fruits of their journey. Pieter closed his eyes. He felt gratitude not just for the result, but for the entire path, for the emptiness that became the beginning, for the spark that didn't die, for the fear that became a teacher, for the flow that carried him to where he had always been home. He opened his eyes. He looked at Natasha, at the house, at the sunset, and at that moment, he realized the reward is not in the result. The reward is in the process, in the feeling of living by your own compass, in being true to yourself, in being loved, and that feeling is eternal abundance. Epilogue. The journey is the destination. You hold in your hands the story of a person who journeyed from emptiness to fullness, from fear to trust, from resistance to flow. Pieter's story is not an ideal to emulate. It is an invitation. An invitation to look within. An invitation to trust yourself. An invitation to act. Perhaps you are on your own journey. Perhaps you to feel an emptiness inside that needs filling, or a fear that seems insurmountable, or a dream that seems out of reach. Remember, Piotr's path is not the path to his results. It is the path to you, to your true nature, to your inner light. Here are some parting words from Piotr and from me. Start small. Don't search for a great beginning. Start with one intention, one gratitude, one step, even if it seems tiny. A great journey starts with the first step. Trust the process. The world doesn't always respond immediately, but it always responds. If you are real, if you are sincere, if you are true to yourself, don't fear fear. Fear is not the enemy. It is the teacher. It shows you where your growth zone is. Don't try to defeat fear. Walk with it. Listen to it. Learn from it. And keep walking. Be yourself. Don't try to be someone else. Don't seek an ideal image. Be yourself. Whole, real. With your fears, with your doubts, with your love. Create value. Don't seek abundance as a reward. Create value. Help people. Share your experience. Be useful. Abundance will come as a reflection of your value. Love unconditionally. Don't seek love as a deal. Love. Love for your wife, your children, your friends, a stranger. All of this strengthens your light, and the world responds in kind. Accept the flow. When opportunities come, don't resist. When coincidences happen, don't dismiss them. This is the flow. This is the universe telling you, you are on the right path. Remember the words that inspired Piotr. Intention is not a practice, it is being. I still doubt, but yesterday, for a moment, I felt that I could. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you resonate with. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to start. And when you take that first step, the universe will support you. It always responds to those who truly wish to change. Your journey is just beginning. Move forward with love and faith in you.